Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, Minecraft, starting with the Awakening Block Puppet Master. Chapter 11, Is This Talking About Me? Ji-Shin couldn't believe his eyes. He clicked on the whole person's homepage and saw densely packed small compositions. He commits murder and arson, destroys flowers with ruthless hands, and commits all kinds of evil. Ha ha ha, interesting, who wrote this? Ji-Shin laughed in anger and looked at him to confirm that he didn't know the poster. Who else could it be? Someone from the Stonemasons Association. Chu Linger on the side said in a mean voice, "Didn't you say you weren't afraid of their revenge?" Ji-Shin's face fell. Who would have thought of this? Others paid to assassinate him. Is there something wrong with the Masons' brains? They paid to spread rumors about him. All I can say is that he is seriously ill. He turned around and called up his system panel, entered the regional chat, and found that one of the most popular posts was about spreading rumors and defaming him. The players of Ji-Shin actually sold their souls to the devil and gained great power. They openly robbed the monster characteristics that our union worked so hard to obtain, and everyone was able to kill them. Close black lens bracket. First floor. Is there really a devil in this world? Second floor. There must be. I have seen this Ji-Shin. He can summon 5 very powerful red-eyed monsters at one time. It seems that he borrowed the power of the devil. He kills people ruthlessly. I saw a person being killed by him with my own eyes. Smashed to pieces. Third floor. Why is this damn guy in our area? He is really unlucky for 8 lifetimes. Fourth floor. Killing this Emperor Shin, it seems that I can still inherit his demonic power. The post is very popular, with more than 100,000 clicks. The content is true and false, except for Ji-Shin's name, and the rest is all nonsense. Ji-Shin's face was gloomy as he read through the comments on the post over and over again. I have to say that the timing chosen by the Masons was really good. People have just arrived in this world and are not very familiar with everything. Everything they say can be trusted. Coupled with living in the open and living in a precarious situation, the hostility in their hearts has already been squeezed to the extreme. Now the Stonemasons Association has given them a target to vent their emotions. From the bottom of their hearts, they don't care about the truth of the matter. They have to criticize Ji-Shin whether they are human or ghost. I was fed a mouthful of cake by the Stonemasons Association for no reason, which made me a little unhappy. But he doesn't really care. Even if the whole world doesn't want to see him, it doesn't matter. He can just use his strength to defeat them. If they don't win, then kill them. Guild of Masons, you have successfully attracted my attention. It's best not to let me know the coordinates of your base. On the other side, the Masonic Guild base. Jia Junyu is sitting in a house built of stone. Next to him is Hu Biao, vice president of the Masons Association. How is the mining of stones and ores going? Jia Junyu asked in a cold voice, turning to Hu Biao. Our association has mined more than 50 groups of stones, including 1 group of iron ore and half of the group of gold mine. Jia Junyu closed his eyes and listened to Hu Biao's report, and a smile gradually appeared at the corner of his mouth. A sudden change was imminent. The Stonemasons Guild had almost a monopoly on all miners and quarriers in the area. These useless stones suddenly became high-quality building materials. As long as they are willing, they can buy as many longevity yuan as they want for a set of stones. If others are not willing to buy it, then you have to dig it yourself. But without the excavation support of miners and quarriers, ordinary people would not be able to dig out a set of stones in a day, and the efficiency is extremely low. After listening to Hu Biao's report, Jia Junyu nodded with satisfaction, and then said, "How did you do what I asked you to do?" "It's all done. I found a few F-level professional keyboard warriors, and in just a few hours, I posted nearly 100 posts slandering Ji-Shin. The content of each post is different. Now Ji-Shin's reputation across the internet has been ruined." "Very good." Jia Junyu opened his eyelids and let out a long sigh of relief. The big stone in his heart finally fell to the ground. He knew very well that doing so would only offend Ji-Shin and would definitely lead to revenge in the future. But he had to do this because due to the failure to snatch the monster, there were already voices opposing him within the association. If it is not resolved in time, it is very likely that the foundation of your leadership will be shaken in the future. That's why he asked Hu Biao to spread rumors and shift the target of everyone's hostility to Ji-Shin. All the failures they experienced were due to Di Xin. This trick really worked. Now within the Stonemasons Association, people only remember that Di Xin beat them and robbed them of their longevity. As for why Di Xin did this, few people care anymore. Don't stop, the rumors must continue to be spread. In addition, contact other unions as soon as possible, especially the food union and the medical union. We can exchange the stones needed for construction for the living and medical supplies they produce, and strive to restore the physical condition of our union members to their best before the sudden change. Also, don't expose the location of our base, safety first. Hu Biao nodded in agreement, turned around and was about to exit the stone house. Jia Junyu thought for a moment and stopped him again. One more thing, tell the people below that no one is allowed to sell a piece of stone to Di Xin and their men. Even if the other party is willing to buy it at a high price, don't sell it. Not selling. Hu Biao couldn't react for a moment, scratched his head and said, "Why, you don't want to be a bastard if you have money. Besides, Di Xin is probably the richest in this region. Now we should take advantage of the increase in stone prices. Kill them hard and there will be no chance in the future." Kill him. Ha, short-sighted. The sudden change is about to begin in 5 days. They don't have enough stones to build defenses. Guess what will happen to them? The end. Hu Biao frowned slightly, and then he shivered suddenly as he thought of something in his mind. People like them have already learned enough about what will happen after the sudden change on the forum. Now various large organizations are scrambling to buy stones and other building materials, and even the price of soil is skyrocketing. Cutting off a person's stone supply now will undoubtedly cut off their way of survival after the sudden change. Once the sudden change begins, this person will undoubtedly die. All he wanted was to make Di Xin's money, but Jia Junyu wanted Di Xin's life. What I want is not Di Xin's money. If you dare to go against me, I will make them die without knowing how. Jia Junyu's eyes were sharp and his voice was filled with chills. If he wanted to defeat someone, force was not the only way. Just because you can't beat the opponent doesn't mean you can't kill Di Xin. The Masons Guild's biggest advantage is its construction resources. They have almost a monopoly on all professions that deal with stones in the area, and can produce nearly 100 sets of stones every day. Subduing the enemy's troops without fighting was the result he wanted. Hu Biao swallowed, feeling a little more afraid of himself as the president, and then expressed his question. What if Di Xin and the others join other unions to seek asylum? He has no chance. I have already made an agreement with the food union, the medical union, the equipment union, these big guilds. We will use 10% off the price of the stone in exchange for Di Xin's all-union ban. You don't need to worry about these things. Take over. You just need to ensure the progress of stone excavation. Jia Junyu waved his hand, indicating that Hu Biao could retreat. Serial plan. It's high, it's really too high. Come on, President, please take a rest first, I'm going down. Hu Biao had a smile on his face and kept flattering Jia Junyu. The things Jia Junyu had previously ordered him to do seemed unrelated, but they were intertwined. In the end, all the fingers were pointed at Di Xin. At first, he was vaguely worried that spreading rumors about Di Xin across the internet would incur retaliation from the other party, but now there is no need to worry, Di Xin may not even survive that time. No prize guessing. What is this? 2 days flew by. During this period, Di Xin and others went out in a group to collect a large number of resources, the most precious of which were seeds of various foods. With these seeds, although food is still in short supply, it can be regarded as a certain guarantee. Boom! Outside the cave, 3 large wooden boxes fell to the ground, stirring up bursts of dust. Di Xin coughed twice, waved his hands to disperse the smoke from his mouth, and spoke. There are more than 70 sets of stones and a dozen sets of iron ore in these 3 boxes. Your next task is to upgrade your equipment and build some fortifications around them according to my requirements. More than 70 groups of stones, and more than a dozen groups of iron ore. Did you take out the home of the Stonemasons Association? Chu Linger stared at her big round eyes and opened her mouth half open. She really couldn't believe Di Xin's words, but there were indeed these things in the 3 boxes in front of her. Wang Cheng and the others all had the same reaction as Chu Linger. Boss, our relationship with the Stonemasons Association is so tense now, how did you convince them to sell it to us? Wang Cheng took out the stone and looked at it carefully and said. What are you buying? I dug these myself. Ji Shin was confused. In his eyes, these stones were just rubbish. He could get as many as he wanted. He didn't understand why he had to use his precious longevity to buy some broken stones. As soon as these words came out, Wang Cheng and Chu Linger looked like they had seen a ghost, and their eyes revealed disbelief. One person, even the top miner, cannot dig out so much stone in just a few days. Chu Linger took out the pickaxe and handed it to Ji Shin. Teach us. Ji Shin was very dissatisfied with Chu Linger's mischievous behavior. He reached for the pickaxe and chiseled away at the exposed stone on the side. At first glance, you are novices in MC. You don't even know how to dig a rock. Watch carefully. I will only teach you once. Scandium. The sound of stones colliding was heard. Ji Shin's level has now reached level 6, and his strength is already 3 times stronger than that of an ordinary person. This writing made his hands tremble and numb, and even his satiety level dropped by 1 level. But the exposed stone did not fall into rubble and enter his backpack under the blow, but instead flicked his pickaxe away. How is this going? Ji Shin looked at everything in his hands with wide eyes. In the game Minecraft, digging stones with a pickaxe is an easy task, but now in the real world, it is actually so laborious. Ji Shin did not believe in evil, so he waved his hand and chiseled a few more times, and then a piece of rough stone was, reluctantly, sucked into his backpack. At this moment, he seemed to finally understand that there was a certain gap between the game and reality. If there was no corresponding occupation for mining stones, digging would be extremely time-consuming and laborious. From the beginning, Ji Shin did not follow the normal steps to upgrade his equipment. Instead, he directly activated his cube collection ability. That is why he did not realize that there was such a huge gap between the real world and the game world when it came to mining stones. Now I look back at my career and see how powerful the SSS level is. I can collect all the blocks instantly without losing my satiety. This skill can only be described as incredible. Wang Cheng and others wanted to laugh when they saw Ji Shin's thoughtful look, but as a qualified young man, he had to hold it back at this time. It doesn't count this time. I'll demonstrate it to you again. Ji Shin's face was a little worried, but he didn't show it. He picked up the pickaxe and hit the stone on the side again. Collect and activate instantly. Snapped. As he continued writing this article, a completely opposite scene appeared. A large pile of stones in front of him instantly turned into powder and was sucked into his backpack. It didn't even take a second. Wowsow. Is this the chain mining mentioned in the forum? It's so powerful. Wang Cheng and others had never seen this scene before. Their eyes lit up and they all praised it. The boss is awesome. No wonder he can bring out so many stones. Ha ha ha. Those grandsons from the Stonemasons Association must not know that we can dig stones quickly. It seems that their idea of blocking resources is going to fail. Everyone in the Iron Armor gang has become Ji Shin's little fanboys. Who wouldn't love an all-around boss with superb combat power and full life attribute points? It doesn't make sense. The pickaxe's durability is not lost. How did you do this? Chu Linger was also a little surprised, but unlike Wang Cheng and the others, she was more curious about how Ji Shin did it. It's something you're born with, you can't learn it. Ji Shin reached out and stuffed the pickaxe back into his arms, pretending to be relaxed. Okay, the stone has been given to you, go to work. I don't care for idlers here. As he said that, he walked further and further away. Work, don't be stupid. Wang Cheng reached out and knocked the second child on the head, reminding him, quick. Build a wall here first. The members of the Iron Armor gang moved boxes filled with stones and began various construction projects. What is the principle? Is it some kind of MC characteristic? Chu Linger did not immediately follow Wang Cheng and the others to start construction. Instead, she held the pickaxe thoughtfully, then raised it and slammed it against the rocks on the ground. Satiety -1. Chu Linger. Hey, comma. After Ji Shin handed over what he had to do to Wang Cheng and others, he returned to the cave. After spending the past few days together, he discovered that Chu Linger actually had some talents in architecture and redstone, and learned everything very quickly. After simply drawing a few drawings of the redstone device, Chu Linger was fully responsible for the defense buildings of the base, while the rough guys from the Iron Armor gang were responsible for the labor force. What they lack most now is food, a lot of food, and this is what he has to consider now. There is not much stored bone meal left in the box, and temporary planting is impossible. The best and most convenient way is undoubtedly to buy it directly from the trading market with other people. Ji Shin accidentally discovered an organization called the Food Union some time ago. Like the Stonemasons Guild, they recruit a large number of farmers and livestock herders to sell large amounts of food to individuals or organizations. He also tried to communicate with the other president, but for some unknown reason, they all ended in failure. Ji Shin guessed that it was most likely because of the rumors spread on the internet. Damn Masons Association, if you dare to slander my reputation, I will cut off the foundation of your existence today. Ji Shin's eyes lit up with white light, and his whole body gradually rose into the air. The surrounding stones gathered around him like raindrops. Activating the collection in an instant, Ji Shin kept going downwards, making even the toughest blocks appear extremely fragile in front of his 3S power. Original stone plus 64, original stone plus 64, original stone plus 64. As the time approached noon, Ji Shin dug nearly 300 groups of stones by himself, filling 6 large boxes. The reason why small and medium-sized guilds like the Stonemasons Guild can be on an equal footing with the major guilds today and have a certain say in it is probably due to these building stones. The coordinates of the opponent's base are well hidden and cannot be found in the entire forum, but this does not mean that Ji Shin cannot attack them remotely. No, Mr. President, something big has happened. Hu Biao stumbled into Jia Junyu's office, which was made of huge stones. There were big beads of sweat on his forehead. He obviously encountered something urgent. Calm down, Hu Biao, I will hold up the sky if it falls. Jia Junyu chewed the steak in his mouth leisurely and contentedly, with a hint of displeasure in his expression. President, don't eat it. Our stone market has been stabbed in the back. Some people are selling low-priced stones. Our stones can no longer be sold now. Jia Junyu's relaxed expression instantly froze, and his eyes became sharp. Impossible. All the miners and quarriers in this area are ours. How can anyone break the monopoly of our Masons Association? This piece of information hit him hard on the chest like a heavy hammer, and the steak he swallowed got stuck in his throat. Water. He coughed. Hu Biao quickly handed over a bottle of water, and Jia Junyu successfully swallowed the steak. What exactly is going on? Tell me in detail. Jia Junyu slowly regained his composure, but his eyes revealed seriousness and coldness. Hu Biao had no need to elaborate. He called up his system panel and tapped his finger on the screen to reveal a mysterious man whose face was hidden. Boss, this is the man who sold 100 sets of rough stones in just half a day, and the price was only half of ours. 100 groups, Jia Junyu exclaimed. This figure is the sales volume of their Masons Association in 2 full days. Jia Junyu quickly called up his system panel and clicked on the newly opened store. The most conspicuous product inside was the rough stones sold by the Stonemasons Association. Original stone plus 64, price, 15 days life yuan. We buy a group of rough stones for 1 month's lifespan, and the other party's group of rough stones buy half a month's lifespan. This is just looking for trouble. Hu Biao quickly added. Now some of our old users are scolding us in our store, saying that we are making dirty money. If you don't think of a way, President, our store will be finished. The main income of the Stonemasons Association is from selling high-priced stones, and they can make a lot of money in just a few days. If this income source is cut off, it will be a disaster for them. Jia Junyu didn't stop and quickly found the store of their Masons Association. Sure enough, as Hu Biao said, the messages under the store have exploded. What a bad luck. I just bought a set of stones here that cost me 1 month of life. There is a store next door that also buys stones. A set of stones only costs 15 days of life. I feel like I have been stabbed by this Masonry Association and I will never come back again. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Bad review. What kind of hot chicken shop doesn't support returns within 15 days without any reason? Close black lens bracket. Brothers, please don't buy stones here. They are making shady money. If you buy a set of stones for 1 month's lifespan, I have long been unhappy with them. Close black lens bracket. Jia Junyu frowned. In just half a day, the Masons Association lost nearly 90% of its users, and the remaining 10% were mostly internal members of the Masons Association. Asshole, how is this possible? His face was getting worse and worse, and even his voice was trembling a bit. The other party was obviously prepared. Immediately afterwards, a hot search post quickly caught his attention. The Stonemasons Association made a huge fortune. A group of stones was sold for a high price of 1 month's life. It is simply a black-hearted shop. Close black lens bracket. The popularity of this post soared very quickly, and it once pushed out the post of the great demon King Dishin and became the #1 hot search. Jia Junyu was stunned on the spot. This combination of punches caught him off guard. It's certainly no accident that this post has become a hot search topic. He had just used this method on Dishin a few days ago, but he didn't expect it to appear on his association today. He looked through the anonymous businessman's shop again, but found no clues. In addition to selling rough stones, the mysterious man's shop also sells some ores, but the volume of sales is not as large as the rough stones. Could it be Dishin who is behind this? A very scary idea suddenly popped into Jia Junyu's mind. He always felt that something was wrong. The method of committing the crime was exactly the same as his previous method of revenge on Dishin, which he had to doubt. The other party seemed to have used an ability similar to block control that night. But controlling blocks and collecting blocks are completely two concepts and cannot be confused. Furthermore, how could one person dig out hundreds of groups of rough stones in just a few days? No matter how strong the miner is, he can't withstand it. It's probably not an individual crime, and Dishin is mostly ruled out as a suspect. It's possible that other unions are messing with us. Jia Junyu thought directly from another angle. The reason why the Stonemasons Guild has a strong voice in large trade unions is that they have an absolute monopoly on building materials. Now, for no reason, an organization has popped up to compete with them for business and sell the stones they sell. Even the price is half of theirs. It's like they just want to kill them. But why did the other party do this? Could it be that they are interested in the Masons Association's right to speak? Seeing President Jia Junyu frowning, Hu Biao became more and more anxious, so he tentatively urged him. Boss, what should we do now? If the stone cannot be sold, the members under my command will not be paid enough. There are already many miners clamoring to quit their union. Don't worry. Jia Junyu raised his hand to signal Hu Biao to stop talking. The biggest beneficiary of the high-priced stone sales these days is definitely Jia Junyu. Not only does he not have to work in the dark mine tunnels, he can also receive a lifelong salary that is higher than anyone else's. Almost 1/3 of the longevity money that the stone seller gets goes into his personal pocket, but the life money that the frontline workers working in the mines get every day is pitiful. Some miners also thought about resisting, but they, who only knew how to mine, could not defeat the ruthless Jia Junyu. Therefore, the bankruptcy of the Masons is the last thing he wants to see. I will handle this matter. You first try your best to appease the emotions of the people below, and then check to see if it is the fault of someone within the association. Jia Junyu's eyes were sharp, and he had a vague guess that someone within the association might have had a treacherous intention. Yes, I'll do it right away. Hu Biao nodded in agreement and quickly left the stone house. After Hu Biao left, Jia Junyu paced back and forth in the room, frowning in thought. This matter can actually be big or small. The other party can produce 100 sets of rough stones for sale at one time, which shows that the strength must be good, and there may even be support from a large guild. If you can negotiate and come up with a price that both parties agree on, it will be easy to resolve the matter. After all, a sudden change is imminent, and construction materials are in short supply. No matter how much stone the two companies produce, there will always be buyers willing to buy it, so there is no need to worry about not being able to sell it. Now I'm afraid that the other side doesn't want to cooperate with us, and will just keep cutting prices, and eventually destroy their Masons Association and replace them. No, I have to have a good chat with this person. Jia Junyu clicked on the mysterious man's shop homepage. The shop owner had set up a hidden identity, so he couldn't get any information. In the cave on the other side, Dishin was lying on a piece of hay, leisurely scrolling through the comments on the post. These rough stones were indeed sold by Dishin, and he also found someone to post the popular post about the Stonemasons Association. In this internet age, F-level professional keyboard warriors are definitely a force that cannot be ignored. There is no reason why the keyboard warrior can only use it on others, but he cannot use it on himself. He is best at treating others in their own way. In fact, Ji Shin doesn't have to be like this. The SSS level instant collection ability has already made him invincible in this war without gunpowder. If all members of the Stonemasons Association were to dig out 300 sets of rough stones, it would take 3 days without eating or drinking. However, Ji Shin just dug casually for a few hours. He started digging in the morning and didn't even miss lunch. 300 groups were dug. This is still the result of Ji Shin not exerting all his strength. If he runs while mining, this value can be doubled. So, there is no need to fight against the Masons Association. Hiring someone to post a post will only make the Masons Association feel disgusted. Open black lens bracket ding. Sila Shia bought 2 sets of rough stones and Shoyuan made money for 1 month. Open black lens bracket ding. I am a skeleton monster and bought 4 sets of rough stones, and I gained Shoyuan for 2 months. Ji Shin hummed a little tune in his mouth and couldn't help but feel good. He only needed to upload the collected rough stones to the system market. Whenever someone purchased, Shoyuan would be automatically credited to his account. All other trivial matters did not require him worry. Inexplicably, I feel like I'm opening a store in Pinshishi. You can make money while lying down, what a beautiful thing it is. Ji Shin clicked on the system data panel and checked his lifespan. In this world, longevity is not only a currency that can be circulated, but also can be used as real lifespan to feed oneself back. Now he has 60 years of external longevity in his account, which means that as long as Ji Shin's death is not unexpected, he can still live for another 60 years on top of his original lifespan. This kind of unscientific power is simply impossible to achieve under the original laws of the world. This also verifies the prompt they heard when they first crossed over, here you can gain eternal life. Open black lens bracket ding. You have an unread message. Just as he was thinking, a message was sent. Oh, some people seem to be unable to sit still. Ji Shin raised his slightly sleepy eyelids, and after seeing the signature, he threw it directly into the trash can. I'm thinking about negotiating now. What have you been doing? This message was sent by Ja Junyu. The moment the Stonemasons Association slandered his reputation, the negotiation was over. It was only a matter of time before the Masons went bankrupt. Ji Shin stood up and uploaded the other 200 sets of rough stones in the box to his anonymous shop. Open black lens bracket wow. The boss has stocked up again, everyone hurry up and grab it, close black lens bracket. The stones bought here are much better than those from the Stonemasons Association. Not only are they cheaper, but they are also a better quality. Close black lens bracket. Slow down and grab it, the boss will raise the price if this continues. Close black lens bracket. Don't grab it, I'm a scalper, leave some for me. Close black lens bracket. Ji Shin chuckled, and after smoothly adding the scalper to the blacklist, he directly opened a pinned message. From now on, our store will be officially renamed D Store. Close black lens bracket. This store solemnly promises that during the upcoming 100 days of dramatic changes, the price of stones will never increase. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Thanks for your support. Close black lens bracket. As soon as these words came out, the comments from players exploded again. Big brother Daya, take a look, this is the pattern. Close black lens bracket. Stop talking, I'll buy 2 sets of stones first and eat them when I go home. Close black lens bracket. Open black lens bracket. Anyone who wants to be an enemy of D Store in the future will be my enemy. Close black lens bracket. This notice is not only for the players, but also a slap in the face of those in the Stonemasons Association. At the same time, it also expresses my attitude. If you don't accept all cooperation, I will kill you. Of course, the other party can follow suit and lower the price, but if so, there will definitely be discordant voices within their association. And this discordant sound is exactly what Ji Shin wants to see. Ja Junyu on the other side saw the notice from D's store and almost got angry. The other party not only blocked his account, but also issued a statement not to increase the price. This was obviously against him. Come. Damn it, damn it, damn it, comma. After Ji Shin solved the problem in the store, he slowly came to the midair in the back mountain. There is a 50*50 sky farm here. The crops inside are mainly wheat, but of course there are also watermelons, carrots, potatoes, beets, etc. These are their food sources after the sudden change. They are built in the air to prevent zombies from destroying them, making it easier to collect them in the future. Ji-shin came to a pumpkin vine and reached out to knock off a pumpkin cube. Pumpkin +1. The main purpose of coming this time was for the pumpkin in his hand. As we all know, pumpkins have many uses in Minecraft. They can be used as food to make pumpkin pie, pumpkin plus sugar plus eggs, and they can also be made into jack-o'-lanterns as decorations. But probably its most versatile uses are as iron golems and snow golems. If Ji-shin wanted to mass-produce an army of puppets that would obey his orders, he would definitely not be able to rely solely on monster heads. He had to find a stable and mass-produced source of heads. Therefore, Pumpkinhead became his first choice. Ji-shin took out the scissors and quickly cut out a face on the pumpkin. Pumpkinhead +1. Today, I will give you life. Wake up, sleeping puppet. Wang. The Pumpkinhead's eyes suddenly flashed with red light, as if responding to Ji-shin's call. Pumpkinhead puppet transformation +1. Success so easily. Ji-shin was a little surprised, maybe because his ability was more compatible with Pumpkinhead. He opened his backpack and took a look, and found that he did not bring any cubes to make the body of the Pumpkinhead. After thinking for a while, he used local materials and made a straw quick with 9 wheats. He planned to try using straw quick. In the past when heads were scarce, he would have been reluctant to use straw to make the puppet's body. Ji-shin threw the 2 blocks in his hand into the air. The Pumpkinhead and the straw were almost entangled with each other. After the last burst of white light, a cute straw puppet 1 block tall appeared in front of him. Name: Straw Puppet, HP 10, Attack Power 0, Defense Power 0, Speed 10, Special Attributes, the ability to plant and harvest all crops, afraid of rain and water sources. Use wheat to extend your life. Close black lens bracket. It's actually a functional puppet. This straw puppet's combat effectiveness is infinitely close to 0, and it is even afraid of rain. However, the special attributes of the puppet still caught Ji-shin's attention, and he quickly placed the straw puppet in his hand on the wheat field, wanting to see how the other party harvested the crops. After the straw puppet landed, it jumped happily a few times, as if it liked the feeling of stepping on the soil. She first looked at the wheat field that was growing gratifyingly, and her expression showed joy. After getting the owner's consent, she looked like a child running back and forth in the field, constantly harvesting the golden wheat. The magic is that every time the straw puppet picks a piece of wheat, a wheat seed will be automatically planted on that piece of land. Some unripe wheat will be directly ignored by the straw puppet and will not be harvested without thinking. The collected wheat will not fall directly to the ground, but will be directly absorbed into the body of the straw puppet. Finally, it will spit out all the mature wheat and excess wheat seeds to Ji-shin. Ji-shin smiled and looked at this little straw puppet, as if a door to a new world had opened in his heart. Since crops can be grown using straw puppets, can bone puppets made of bone blocks infinitely shorten the growth time of crops? In my world, crops can be quickly ripened with bone meal, which can greatly shorten the growth time. The more Ji-shin thought about it, the more excited he became. If this idea could really come true, then the problem of food shortage would no longer be a problem that bothered him. Even after the food is abundant, you can compete with the food guild for business. In my world, bone blocks are generally generated in deserts and swamps. They are the skeletons left behind after the death of certain large animals. They can also appear in the lower realm full of magma. Of course, the easiest way to get them is to synthesize 3 bones in the workbench. Ji-shin threw out the bones and Pumpkinhead in his hand, and a bone puppet with a snow-white body and terrifying lines on its face appeared in front of him. The bone puppet looks very much like a snow puppet with its pumpkin head cut off, and its naive look is slightly creepy. The next moment, the system popped up, and the bone puppet's attribute panel appeared in the air. Open black lens bracket ding. Bone puppet summoned successfully. Bone puppet, a partially functional puppet. Under stress, it can launch bone spurs from a distance to attack the enemy, causing 5 points of damage and having a continuous bleeding effect with an interval of 5 seconds. Under non-stress conditions, all crops within 5*5*5 can be ripened, and the skill cooling time is half an hour. Compared with the introduction of the straw puppet, the system directly omits the attribute panel and focuses on the characteristics. Ji-shin looked at the cool bone puppet in front of him and couldn't help but like it. The other party not only meets its own needs for ripening plants, but also saves the work of deploying a combat puppet to defend the farm. I wonder which capitalist doesn't like more versatile talents. Taking out the remaining pumpkin, the movement of his hand did not stop. The white light kept flashing, and the bone puppets and straw puppets came to life from his summons. In the blink of an eye, 30 bone puppets and 10 straw puppets occupied the entire sky farm. The place seems a bit small. After replenishing his strength, Ji-shin took out the soil and bucket. In the original farm, various crops were planted mixed together without any planning. Now after the expansion, they can be planted in different areas. Whoosh! Just when he was about to make corrections, the sound of flame bombs rubbing the air in the distance sounded. After several explosions, the 50*50 sky farm was completely blown away. Countless seeds and crops fell to the ground like rain. There were no landing blocks around, and Ji-shin also fell down with them. Countless horses flew through my heart. The last person who dared to provoke me like this should be filled with regrets now. Ji-shin quickly took out the bucket from his backpack, turned around and made a beautiful splash, which was perfectly immune to all falling damage. All the crops in the sky farm were destroyed, especially some pumpkin seedlings. Not even the seeds were left in the explosion of the fire bombs. Fortunately, the 40 puppets just created had already been included in Ji-shin's shadow, otherwise this wave would really have suffered heavy losses. Who is it? Come out. Ji-shin's anger and murderous intent caused his blood pressure to soar. The surrounding temperature became extremely hot, and some grass even spontaneously ignited. The crossbow sounded. What responded to him was the sky full of flaming arrows. Okay, I know who you are. Since you are not players, there is no need for me to hold back. The moment the crossbow sounded, an MC creature appeared in Ji-shin's mind, the Predator. They are famous bandits in the 1100th world and are a type of disaster villagers. Their favorite thing to do is to beat normal villagers and loot the village. Flame burning activates. With Ji-shin as the center, the flames soaring into the sky instantly reduced everything around him to ashes. Along with the crackling of vegetation, the screams of the predators echoed in the air. Raising one hand, the power of creation was also activated at this time, and the hunger level began to drop crazily. The soil on the ground was pulled by Ji-shin, and it bulged high with a bang, turning a 90-degree bend in the air and surrounding him. All the rain of arrows in the sky was blocked. Immediately afterwards, 2 golden carrots entered the mouth, and the saturation that had just bottomed out instantly returned to full. The power of creation and the burning of fire both consume extremely saturation points. Golden carrots are the food with the highest energy recovery in Minecraft. They can restore 14.4 points of satiety and 6 points of hunger at a time. And it is not difficult to make, which undoubtedly makes it the king of cost effectiveness in Ji-shin's heart. In this way, with the addition of golden carrots, the fire burned for more than half an hour before it finally stopped. At this time, the surrounding trees had long since disappeared without a trace, and even the dirt ground was slightly hot. The soil filled with arrows slowly shrank back. Ji-shin walked out of the earthen house, and what he saw was a piece of scorched earth. Just when Ji-shin was about to leave after finishing his work, he was surprised to find that none of the hidden disaster team had died. They were all crowded together, and the water under their feet continued to cool them down. This time he really opened his eyes. Compared to those stupid zombies and skeletons who only acted on instinct, these disaster villagers seemed to be people with normal intelligence. The eyes of the leader of the Marauder captain were full of fear. Ji-shin's combat power just now had completely exceeded his expectations. Now even if he had a numerical advantage, he did not dare to act rashly, so he had to speak tentatively first. This warrior, on behalf of the Kingdom of Calamity, we apologize to you and hope that we can resolve this matter peacefully. Do you really have intelligence? Ji-shin was slightly shocked, and the flame in his hand gradually retracted. He really deserves to be killed if the opponent sneaks up on him, but he can't die now. He needs a channel to understand the world. Until now, he still subconsciously regards this real world as a game, thinking that predators are just monsters like zombies and skeletons. We are human beings. Isn't it normal to have intelligence? Captain Disaster nodded and said with a strange look in his eyes. Ji Shin's worldview was shocked. A plunderer actually said that he was a human being, which was really hard for him to accept. But when I think about it carefully, I realize that there is nothing wrong with it. After all, disaster villagers are also villagers. Aren't villagers human beings? Whether or not there is intelligence is extremely important for creatures. Like zombies and skeletons, they are all monsters without intelligence and cannot unite for hunting. To Ji Shin, they feel like they are just a group of moving NPCs, with no danger at all. But once a creature has intelligence, it will become completely different. They can communicate, learn, and even cooperate with each other to hunt enemies that are much stronger than them. The actions of the disaster team just now have fully proved this point. Captain Calamity saw that Ji Shin seemed to be very interested in the issue of biological intelligence, so he organized his language a little and said to please. In this world, there are only 3 ways for creatures to acquire spiritual intelligence. One is to form a group and gain a sense of collective identity, so that the group can derive civilization and spiritual intelligence. The second type is mutation. Some creatures have a very low chance of awakening to spiritual intelligence after being stimulated by the outside world. The captain of the disaster team stopped when he said this, as if he was hesitating. What about the third type? Ji Shin couldn't help but ask. I'm not sure about the third method, but I heard from the old people in the kingdom that some creatures chosen by the gods can acquire wisdom beyond ordinary people. So far, I have never seen anyone chosen by the gods. Chosen by the gods. Ji Shin felt as if he knew something incredible, but at the same time he had a new question. In this world, do gods really exist? Then are these humans who traveled from Blue Star also the work of gods? This is a game of picking the strong ones. Ji Shin suddenly remembered the sentence he heard when he first traveled through time. Now that he tasted it carefully, it seemed to have a little more ironic meaning. After calming down for a while, he shook off all the messy things in his mind and said, "Where is the kingdom of disaster you speak of?" Captain Disaster looked at the handsome young man in front of him, with a strange look in his eyes. He seemed to know nothing about the disaster land, and he didn't even know the simplest way to travel between areas. Actually, disaster lands are everywhere, and this can also be the territory of the disaster kingdom. As soon as he finished speaking, Captain Disaster took out his axe and hit the red-clothed Taoist priest next to him on the head. The red-clothed defender didn't know that his reflex arc was too long, so he didn't react. Or he didn't want to hide at all. The axe fell, and the square head was split into 2. The red-clothed Taoist priest was killed on the spot, and Yin Hong spread all over the ground. This scene made Ji Shin on the side look dumbfounded. It's okay for one of your own people to beat your own people. But the next moment, he couldn't laugh anymore. As soon as the red-clothed Taoist priest died, the surrounding scene began to change rapidly. The originally towering mountain peaks behind him disappeared, replaced by a large volcano that was billowing thick smoke. When he opened his eyes again, the surrounding scenery had also undergone earth-shaking changes. The birch forest that had been burned by him, with only bare tree trunks left, now turned into a desert terrain of sand and gravel. Everything changed so fast that Ji Shin was in a trance. Open black lens bracket ding. Welcome to the land of disaster. Ji Shin's pupils shrank suddenly, and in just a moment he realized that he had been plotted by the other party. He raised the iron sword in his hand and pointed the tip of the sword directly at Captain Calamity's throat. A land of disaster. You are actually playing dirty tricks. Captain Calamity didn't panic, he dodged and directly avoided the stabbing iron sword. Calm down, warrior, you are on our territory now. Ah, just when Ji Shin was surprised, a blue bow and arrow pierced his spine, and his whole body felt like it was pierced by thousands of steel nails. He turned around and looked around. The area was now surrounded by marauders armed with crossbows. The number had already exceeded 50, and the blue arrows were shot by them. Ha ha ha, kid, you are still too young. Now that you have come to the land of disaster, just stay. The captain of the disaster squad raised his foot and kicked Ji Shin over, who had been hit by an arrow. The compliment on his face instantly turned into a joke. Ji Shin wanted to struggle to get up, but the blue particle effect floating out of his body was constantly consuming every inch of his body's strength. This blue arrow actually has the ability to seal satiety. The captain of the disaster team patted Ji Shin's head, with a hint of regret in his voice. Don't waste your energy. This arrow is prepared for people like you who have the power of the gods. As long as you are hit by this arrow, you will completely become an ordinary person within 3 days. The power of the godhead mentioned by Captain Calamity refers to Ji Shin's previous ability to control flames at will. It's hard to become an ordinary person. Ji Shin sneered in his heart. There was no panic in his eyes after he was hit by the arrow. On the contrary, he was now unusually calm. Sealing one's hunger level can indeed cut off most of one's combat power, but unfortunately not all of it. The 3S level block puppet master is not so weak. Suddenly, Captain Calamity felt a chill on his back, and a pair of giant steel hands placed directly on his shoulders. When he looked back, a steel monster with red eyes appeared silently behind him. Ah! Steel number 1 exerted force with both hands, and Captain Calamity's body instantly disintegrated, with various body parts scattered on the ground. The essence of a puppet is actually a summoned object, which is not affected by the host's own hunger value. Then, the remaining 4 steel puppets all appeared and began a brutal and inhumane massacre. Half an hour later, Ji Shin stood up slowly. His level had reached the peak of level 9, and he was only 1 step away from level 10. The negative effects of being hit by an arrow are still there, but my mobility has been restored to some extent. He walked up to a defender whose face was covered in blood. This defender was already seriously injured and had a small tongue left on purpose by Ji Shin. You answer whatever I ask. If there is a lie, you will see the consequences. Ji Shin pointed at the dismembered Captain Disaster and threatened him secretly. The defender looked at the young man with a faint white light in his eyes, and his body couldn't help but tremble. The devil in front of him killed their entire disaster team in just half an hour. The most frightening thing is that the other party still accomplished this despite the effect of the cursed arrow. How did you teleport a living person like me to the land of disaster? Ji Shin asked his first question. The defender had already been frightened out of his wits. In order to save his life, he quickly replied. Yes, it's Zinpan. They are people with special spatial abilities. They can use their bodies to build bridges connecting 2 areas. Once Zinpan dies, the people who were teleported will naturally come back. Zinpan. This was the first time Ji Shin heard such a title. If according to what this person said, the red-clothed Taoist priest with his head split in half was the one he mentioned. In other words, I only need to find another Zinpan to go back. Theoretically, that's the case, but I can't guarantee that you're looking for Zinpan and don't have other ideas. The defender became excited, his voice trembling. Everything I said is true. You can't break your promise and let me live. Ji Shin nodded, with an honest smile on his face. Don't worry, as long as you are honest, there will be no problem with your life. Second question, do you know where to find Zinpan? After hearing Ji Shin's promise, the Taoist priest felt less uneasy and hurriedly spoke again. The Kingdom of Calamity has many organizations that train Zinpan. Zinpan's life is not precious, so he is not someone who is difficult to find. You will definitely be able to find him if you go to the capital. So that's the case, no wonder the disaster captain acted so decisively. If human lives are used as teleportation spells, the disaster land will really be in chaos. Very good, you are free. Ji Shin was very satisfied with this man's answer. After saying that, he turned around and left without any hesitation. When the Taoist priest saw Ji Shin walking away, he breathed a long sigh of relief, and his eyes began to turn evil. He took out a messenger firework from his arms and kept mumbling in his mouth. There is a foreign invasion, please be alert. As soon as he finished speaking, before the fireworks took off, a sharp bone spur pierced his heart. The bone puppet slowly emerged from the darkness, picked up the fireworks that fell on the ground, and quickly chased in the direction where Ji Shin left. On the Black Gobi Desert, a figure quickly passed by, and then the sound of the system sounded. Open black lens bracket ding. The breath of disaster is eroding the host's mind, please return to your own area as soon as possible. Close black lens bracket. The air in the disaster land seems to contain some kind of special dark breath. This breath is like a force, but more like a curse, causing all creatures that step here to fall into darkness. Ji Shin frowned, and an inexplicable irritability rose in his heart. He knew that he had been affected by the curse of disaster. No, if we continue walking like this without any direction, we will either starve to death or be assimilated into a disaster. He has been wandering here alone for a long time, surrounded by black goby as far as the eye can see. There are not even trees, let alone anything to eat. It really deserves the name of disaster. After thinking for a while, he decided to take a risky move. He took out a firework from his arms, which was exactly what the little tongue wanted, to tell the truth. Little Tongue was killed by his own backhand, and now Ji-shin wants to use this firework to find the location of the Kingdom of Disaster. Search. Fireworks took off and dazzling lights exploded in the sky. Although it was daytime, the light was still clearly visible. Little Tongue's last words seemed to be transmitted quickly through some medium into the distance. There is a foreign invasion, please be alert. There is a foreign invasion, please be alert. Ji-shin hid his figure, and the next thing he had to do was wait for the predators to come to him. On the other side, the wilderness of the Kingdom of Calamity. A young man in white was kneeling in front of two corpses and wailing bitterly. His voice was pitiful and sad, and the two gallows around him seemed particularly abrupt. The two corpses in front of them walked peacefully, and the marks of strangulation on their necks were clearly visible. Father, mother, why are you so stupid? Treason and rebellion is a serious crime. Why do you do this? Why do you do this? They are all useless. If I were strong enough, you might not have to die. The body of the boy in white clothes couldn't stop shaking, and his head was bleeding. Seeing the boy in white crying so miserably, the two Taoist priests on the side were full of disdain. Your parents have committed serious crimes. As the sons of sinners, it is already a great mercy for the king not to execute you. You still just take care of yourself. After saying that, the two defenders turned and left, leaving the young man kneeling on the spot. The boy in white beat the ground with his fists in pain, watching helplessly as his parents' bodies turned into dots of starlight and disappeared, but he was powerless to do anything. Is our Zinpan's life so worthless? Why does God treat us like this? I don't understand. There is an invasion of foreigners, be on alert. Just as the young man was feeling sad, the messenger fireworks launched by Ji-shin exploded in his ears. This sound seemed to come from a very far away place. When it reached the ears of the boy in white, he could only barely hear the last sound, and the sound quickly dissipated into nothingness. Not good. The young man in white suddenly woke up, and before he could feel sad, he turned around and ran towards the kingdom city. Although his parents were executed by the kingdom, as a subject of calamity, it was his unshakable responsibility to report the disaster to the Kingdom of Calamity, and it had nothing to do with his personal grudges. It's not good. Something bad is going to happen. A foreign army is coming. Level 1 red alert, Level 1 red alert. The voice of the boy in white attracted the attention of a disaster team. The leader of the team frowned and stopped the boy from shouting, "What are you yelling for? Do you know what the first level warning means? I know that this indicates that the enemy's combat strength is at least 1,000 people. We must gather the army to fight." The young man was not timid because of Captain Calamity's reproach and said in a neither humble nor condescending manner, "HMPH, assembling the army, you are talking lightly. Where is the evidence?" I heard the sound of messenger fireworks. It seemed to be coming from a very far away place. I just heard a sentence. The young man became anxious, his voice trembling a little. As soon as he heard the messenger fireworks, Captain Calamity's face obviously became serious. He would not use this thing unless absolutely necessary. He gave the men next to him a look, instructing them to send the news back to the city immediately. "Are you Zinpan?" Captain Disaster asked with a hint of contempt in his voice when he saw the black mark on the boy's neck. Yes. The young man felt a little guilty. His eyes were evasive, and he did not dare to look directly into the eyes of the disaster team leader. Although Zinpan has the ability to jump through space, his status in the land of disaster is not high. Many people use Zinpan as a one-time teleportation spell. Very good. If that's the case, things will be easier to handle. Since you heard the sound of the messenger fireworks, it shouldn't be difficult to locate its location. Theoretically this is possible, but as soon as he heard that he had to be positioned and teleported, the young man suddenly became hesitant. Zinpan's space jumping ability has a very fatal flaw, that is, it cannot jump back and forth in different regional worlds. If the sound of signaling fireworks comes from other regional worlds, after the boy teleports them there, the only way to return to the land of disaster is to kill Zinpan. The young man didn't want to take on this hard job, so he wanted to refuse. HMPH. No, but you are the only one in the entire Kingdom of Calamity who heard the sound of signaling fireworks. The possibility of this is too low. If you don't want to be accused of lying about military information, then take us for reconnaissance one time. As soon as these words came out, the young man was completely panicked. He was not yet 16 years old. Let's not say whether the source of the messenger fireworks was outside the area. Even if he really faced a powerful enemy, he would be the first to die. He will also be a person with no fighting ability like him. According to the laws of the kingdom, I have the right to refuse. The boy's eyes became firm and his voice was full of anger. No, you didn't. Captain Calamity placed the iron axe on the young man's neck, his eyes full of contempt. The young man quickly took 2 steps back, and just as he was about to jump away, a blue arrow pierced his skin directly. Ah! A strong feeling of weakness instantly filled the young man's body, causing him to fall into the void and fall to the ground. Captain Disaster walked up to the boy with a smile on his face, his voice full of hypocritical tenderness. Don't worry, we will just take a look at it from a distance and avoid fighting with strong enemies. After all, this is a level 1 red alert. We can't mobilize the entire country's troops just because of your words. The young man's eyes were full of anger, but he had no choice but to nod angrily and agree. Seeing that the boy agreed, Captain Calamity calmly threw a bucket of milk to him so that he could eliminate the power of the curse from his body. Time waits for no one, let's start now. On the other side, Ji-shin hid his figure and waited boredly for the fish to take the bait. The fireworks must have expired, right? Why hasn't there been any movement for so long? Just when Ji-shin was about to think of another way, there was a slight fluctuation in the air, and then, a dozen plunderers appeared out of thin air in front of Ji-shin. Coming. Ji-shin was overjoyed and quickly lowered his figure to prevent his whereabouts from being exposed. He called to the 5 steel puppets in the shadows and turned into black shadows and quietly wrapped them around. The combat effectiveness of these predators is not much better than ordinary white skeletons. What worries Ji-shin most is that they are intelligent creatures and can understand teamwork and use various props. Ji-shin has not forgotten how the last wave of looters used fire bombs to overthrow his farm. Now that his hunger level is blocked, the only fighting method he can use is the puppet in his hand. Ji-shin is not willing to take this risky move unless it is absolutely necessary. No one, how dare you lie to me? Just when Ji-shin was about to take action, the predator captain turned back and glared at a man in white clothes in the team with extremely unkind eyes. It's impossible, Captain, you have to believe me. I clearly feel that there is a distress signal here, ah. Before the predator in white clothes could finish speaking, the team leader kicked him directly. You are just a low-level idiot. What qualifications do you have for me to believe in you? I only believe in my eyes. The white-clothed Zinpan was kicked away directly by this kick. After rolling on the ground for several weeks, she lay on the ground and groaned in pain. The remaining predators just watched quietly, with no intention of helping the white-clothed Zinpan. Their eyes were full of disgust when they looked at this Zinpan. This scene made Ji-shin dumbfounded again. He didn't expect that Zinpan's status in the Kingdom of Calamity was so low. After all, he was a talent with the ability to teleport. He was able to fight and kill, which was simply an understatement. In the land of disaster, Zinpan has the ability to shatter space, but due to congenital defects in his body, he cannot pick up anything, not even the most basic thing of wearing armor. To put it simply, apart from being able to jump in space, Zinpan's own combat effectiveness is infinitely close to zero. This is simply a fatal flaw for the Kingdom of Calamity, which advocates force. The team leader walked forward and looked down at Zinpan in white, who was still struggling in pain. Remember, you are just a tool for the Kingdom of Calamity to unify the world. The fact that you have not been exterminated proves that you are not worth using. Stop playing tricks on me and tell me what you want to do by bringing us here. Team, Captain, I'm not lying, I really feel the distress signal here. The eyes of the young man in white were full of fear. In the Kingdom of Disaster, lying about military information was a serious crime, not to mention that he was even worse than a dog. The squad leader knelt down and looked carefully at Zinpan's face in white clothes. As if he remembered something, he spoke. Who are you, the two masterminds of the Zinpan rebellion incident some time ago? My parents, the young man said tremblingly. Zinpan is also a human being, and they also have their emotions, anger, sorrow, and joy. After long-term oppression and discrimination, they finally broke out. They launched a great uprising. Their purpose was just to ask the kingdom to give them the most basic dignity as a human being. However, due to Zinpan's naturally weak constitution and the cursed arrow that could restrain all the power of the Godhead, the rebel army was quickly suppressed, and the two planners were hanged. After Captain Calamity got the answer he wanted, he laughed out loud, stepped on the boy's head hard with his foot, and kept exerting force. It turns out to be you. Why do you look so familiar? He waved to others to come over. The reason why we can survive in the land of disaster is all because of the king's gift to us. Your parents still want to overthrow the rule of the kingdom of disaster. They are really ignorant. Hit me hard, and today I will deal with the remnants of the rebel army for the king. Captain Calamity had already spoken, and the rest of the team members had no intention of holding back. They just punched and kicked the boy in white without showing any sympathy. You are a bunch of bugs just like your parents. Go to hell. After you die, we can go back. Your bones are really strong. You were born to be beaten. The young man in white felt the pain from everywhere in his body and the unpleasant insults in his ears, and his consciousness gradually became blurred. My parents were hanged and I was helpless. When he learned that an enemy was going to attack the kingdom, he was willing to put aside the hatred of his closest relatives and chose to pass on the news without any hesitation. But what he got in the end was beatings and scoldings from others. At this moment, the boy in white could finally understand why his parents resisted. The place of disaster is not purgatory, the human heart is. If there is an afterlife, I want to be a bad guy with great power. The young man murmured his last words. Although his voice was small, it was extremely clear. The captain of the disaster squad laughed mercilessly. You are the only one who still thinks of yourself as a bad guy. Don't worry, there will be no afterlife. I don't know if there will be a future life, but I can make you a bad person in this life. A sound like thunder sounded behind the members of the disaster team, shocking them to stop the beating movements in their hands. They saw a young man appearing out of nowhere and walking towards them step by step. Bold, you actually dare to trespass into the land of disaster. Trespassing. Ji Shin chuckled. Give me a place where birds can't poop, and I don't even want it. You still treat me like a treasure. Although Ji Shin and Zinpan, who was lying on the ground in white clothes, both looked like teenagers, their images and temperaments were completely different at this time. One was covered in blood, helpless and pitiful. One is high-spirited, confident and powerful. Captain Disaster pulled out his iron axe and stared at the foreigners who appeared out of nowhere with a vigilant look on his face. Puppets, come together and destroy them for me. With an order, 5 steel puppets emerged from the ground and rushed towards the disaster team. The disaster team of more than a dozen people hurriedly faced the enemy and shot the 5 steel puppets with cursed arrows in their hands. What they never expected was that the steel puppet directly took the arrows they shot without even trying to dodge. Quickly, send the recruitment information to the kingdom quickly, ah. A member of the disaster squad was stabbed into a sea urchin by a bone puppet as soon as he took out the messenger firework. In order to achieve a quick victory, Ji Shin directly released the bone puppets with low attack power. More than 30 bone-fast puppets charge up long-range attacks together, and the damage is still very considerable. Ji Shin came to the boy in white and handed over the last golden carrot on his body. Are you hungry? Want something to eat? The young man wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, took the golden carrot without knowing why, and said with some uncertainty, "You are the foreigner mentioned in the message fireworks." Ji Shin nodded and did not deny it. "Yes, it's me, but none of that matters anymore. I just heard you say that you want to be a bad guy. Maybe I can help you. And I can also make you a very powerful bad guy. Help me. How can you help?" The death in the young man's eyes faded, and there was a hint of determination in his voice. Ji Shin was slightly happy that the other party was so smart. Talents like this who could teleport through space must be tricked into joining his camp. The first step for a good person to become evil is to kill someone. With that said, Ji Shin threw the iron sword in his backpack to the young man, and then waved his hand for Steel One to pick up the half-dead Captain Disaster Squadron. Kill him with this iron sword. Kill him. The boy's pupils shrank. He was still a child and had never killed anyone. The only dead people he had ever seen were his parents. The captain of the Disaster Squadron raised his purple eyelids and shouted fiercely, "Traitor, you humble bastard dares to conspire with foreigners to frame your own people. The Disaster Kingdom will not let you go." Noisy. Ji Shin slapped him in the face, and then said coldly, "A fellow of the same clan. It's really ridiculous. If I hadn't taken action, it seems that your own clan would have been beaten to death by your own hands now. That's what he deserves. Who asked him to lie about military information?" When he mentioned lying about military information, the captain of the disaster team was obviously stunned and immediately felt something was wrong. The boy in white seemed to be really not lying. After all, an extremely powerful foreigner was standing in front of him and slapping him. Ji Shin was too lazy to talk to the captain of the disaster squad and turned to look at the white-robed Zinpan again. "How are you thinking about it? As long as you kill him, we will be our own, and I can give you everything you want." When Ji Shin spoke, Yanran acted like a villain. The white-clothed Zinpan struggled with his eyes, and was constantly tangled in his heart. Finally, he said, "He is also a member of my race. I beg you, can you let him live?" "Let him live." Ji Shin shook his head helplessly. He had been beaten into such a bare shape, but he still wanted to say good things to the persecutor. "It is not a good thing to take a holy mother as your little brother. I really don't know whether I should call you kind or stupid." "Well, let's skip the first step and jump directly to the second step, rebellion. You said that if a person betrays his own race and helps foreigners kill his own race, can this person be called a bad person? That must be a bad guy." The young man in white's eyes trembled, and Ji Shin's words instantly awakened the dreamer. Yes, at this moment, Bai Zinpan seemed to have taken off a layer of shackles. The aura of disaster in his heart was completely detonated, and his overall temperament underwent earth-shaking changes, which made Ji Shin, who was watching on the side, secretly surprised. Isn't this kid driven crazy by himself? Ji Shin felt that the other party would need more guidance in ideological education classes in the future. If he really turned him into a white-eyed wolf, he would be the one who got hurt. The young man bent down and wanted to pick up the iron sword, but was unable to do so due to his flaw in his heart. But he didn't give up. Without weapons, he still had his fists, which were filled with hatred and could still kill people. "Ah, you traitor, stop. The Kingdom of Calamity will not let you go." Captain Calamity, who was already seriously injured, was now helpless under the fist of the boy in white. It was you who killed my parents. I should have thought of it. Just like that, Shin Pan, who had no fighting power, beat the fully armed Captain Disaster to death with punch after punch. Looking at his blood-stained hands, the white-clothed boy's eyes began to turn blood red. The aura of disaster accumulated in the disaster land for a long time completely exploded, and his expression gradually became crazy. Is this the feeling of killing? Is this the feeling of relief? Ji Shin swallowed unconsciously. Oh my god, there must be something wrong with this kid's psychology. He jumped from one extreme to the other. Actually, to be a bad person, you have to learn to be grateful. Otherwise, you can only be a low-level bad person who has not escaped from the evil realm. Ji Shin cleared his throat, feeling that his little brother could still be saved. The boy in white suddenly came back to his senses, the blood-red color in his eyes quickly receded, and he fell to his knees with a pop in the direction of Ji Shin. "You have given me the gift of reincarnation. From today on, you are the master of my disaster lark, and my life is also yours." Calamity Lark. This name is somewhat interesting. Actually, I still like you to call me boss or boss. Master, I sound very old. I understand, master. Ji Shin nodded. Although he always felt that the other party had some minor flaws in his character, these were minor problems. He would just instill more positive thoughts in the future. Taking a Zinpan as your little brother will make it much easier whether you are rushing or escaping in the future. Most importantly, you can go back now. Brother, let's go. Master, where are you going? I can take you there. Go home, At the back mountain of the base, a space-time rift was torn apart. Ji Shin and the disaster lark walked out of it. Ji Shin took a deep breath of the sweet air and said with some satisfaction, "It's better to be comfortable in your own area. The smell of disaster there is too strong." "That's what the boss said." Disaster Lark nodded in agreement. Open black lens bracket ding. The 100 days of shocking changes have begun, and the remaining days are 98 days. Close black lens bracket. The system prompt came too late, which made Ji Shin frown. He only stayed in the land of disaster for a day and a half. Logically speaking, he should still have half a day to prepare. Why did he only have 98 days left when he arrived? Could it be that the time flow rate is different in different regions of the world? Just as Ji Shin was thinking, a piece of white transparent paper appeared in his hand, and the system prompt sounded again. Base planning map. The host can use life yuan to divide his territory in this area. In the host's territory, shocking monsters cannot be generated in this area. The more life yuan spent, the larger the territory will be. Close black lens bracket. This transparent paper should have been given to Ji Shin when the sudden change occurred. Because he was not in this area at the time, it was only added now. Ji Shin thought for a while. With this piece of paper, the difficulty of sudden changes would be greatly reduced, and he no longer had to worry about a zombie appearing inexplicably around him. Throwing the base plan into the air, he now had more shoyuan, so he simply charged 30 years of shoyuan into it, covering the entire area of more than 10 kilometers. Open black lens bracket ding. The system has detected that 9 base plans already exist in this area. Does the host choose to overwrite it? These 9 base plans should have been posted by Wang Cheng and others, but because Ji Shin had recharged 30 years of longevity at once, the priority was much higher than their base plans, so they could directly choose to cover them. Yes, Ji Shin gave an order, and a regional planning map with 30 years of longevity expanded in the wind, covering an area of more than 10 kilometers in radius. Immediately afterwards, everything in this area, including Chu Ling'er and Wang Cheng, were clearly presented in his mind, just like a 360-degree camera with no blind spots. Bring me to Qianshan quickly. Ji Shin suddenly became serious. He could clearly see in his mind that Wang Cheng and the others were being besieged by a group of zombies. The disaster lark nodded and raised his hand to tear the space in front of him apart again. Although Zinpan's ability cannot be used back and forth across areas, it can still be used for short-distance continuous jumps within an area. Front mountain. Wang Cheng struggled to hold up his shield while coughing out blood. "No, there are too many zombies here. Go back to the cave. Our rear is also full of zombies, and we can't go back. Brothers, hold on. If you persist a little longer, you will definitely find a way." Ahem. Wang Cheng swung his iron sword hard and chopped off the heads of the zombies in front of him, exchanging wounds for wounds and cutting a bloody path. "Let's go. Let's retreat to the cave." The zombies after the shocking change were very strong, far beyond their expectations. Not only do their blood volumes double that of ordinary zombies, but their movement speed has also been significantly improved. The most deadly thing is that the number is simply ridiculous. If you kill one, 2 will be generated around it, which seems to be endless. Just when they were about to break out, a red-clothed zombie suddenly stared at Chu Ling'er, who didn't have much fighting power. Taking advantage of the chaos in the formation of his armored gang, he bit her neck fiercely. It's over. By the time the Iron Armor gang and others tried to return to defense, it was already too late. More zombies surrounded them, making it difficult for them to save themselves. At this moment, time and space fluctuated, and a giant steel object suddenly fell to the ground, instantly smashing the zombie that rushed towards Chu Ling'er to pieces. Then, the second, the third. In the blink of an eye, all 5 base security guards gathered together and withstood the attacks of all the surrounding zombies. "My dear subordinates, have you missed me?" Everyone looked up and saw Ji Shin and a young man in white standing in the air, looking at them with a smile. Wang Cheng was ecstatic. "Boss, you are finally back, we are saved." The rest of the Iron Armor gang also cheered. "It's our turn to fight back. Let all these damn zombies die." Ji Shin's arrival undoubtedly gave them reassurance. It was as if they had been given a shot of chicken blood. Their combat effectiveness was greatly increased, and the zombies they had killed were retreating steadily. To their surprise, the dead zombies did not continue to be generated, and the number was decreasing at a speed visible to the naked eye. "What's going on?" Everyone was a little confused, and the huge pressure suddenly released, and they all collapsed to the ground. The base plan of the 9 of them put together was only enough to cover the entire cave area where they lived. Ji-shin spent 30 years of his life to buy the entire surrounding area using the base plan. From now on, zombies will no longer be automatically generated here. Chu-ling-er looked at the boy in front of her who looked like a god descending from heaven, with a different kind of emotion in her eyes, and she said with some choking, "Why aren't you dead yet? Good people don't live long, and disasters last for thousands of years. How long do you think a disaster, can live?" Ji-shin and the Calamity Lark walked out of the space-time rift together and came to the ground to meet everyone. They looked at the devastated base around them and said angrily, "I think you guys are too disappointed. The base has planned its defense system for so long, but you guys just destroyed it in 2 days." Chu-ling-er and the others in the Tia gang lowered their heads and said nothing. After Ji-shin disappeared, they were leaderless, and Wang Chang had no leadership ability. It only took 2 days for the base's defense system to completely collapse. Ji-shin saw everyone crying and not responding, and he could only sigh helplessly. "Don't worry, now that I'm back, this kind of thing will never happen again. By the way, if any of you have anything to eat, I'm going to starve to death." When Wang Chang heard that his boss was hungry, he quickly took out half a set of rotten meat from his backpack and handed it over. Ji-shin looked at the rotten meat in Wang Chang's hand and cursed in his heart. Why did this become more and more backward as it developed? Wang Chang also saw Ji-shin's thoughts and explained in a low voice. "After you disappeared, boss, the sky farm we built was bombed by someone unknown. Without the source of food, we were forced to go outside to find some food. This was the scene where we were besieged by zombies just now." Quote, "Then you won't buy some from the food union. We can make more money if our longevity is gone, but we only have 1 life." Ji-shin was very disappointed that Wang Chang didn't know how to adapt. Wang Chang shook his head, his voice even more sad. "It's useless. We tried it. They said that we were Emperor Shin's subordinates, so they refused to sell us any grain. Even if we were willing to pay several times the market price, they were unwilling to buy it." The anger in Ji-shin's heart suddenly rose. Even if the Masons Union suppresses them, the Food Union also joins in the fun. "Okay, I'll keep this grudge in my mind. I will definitely thank you in the future." Ji-shin took the rotten meat in Wang Chang's hand and took a hard bite. Hunger effect particles began to appear in his body. "By the way, I forgot to introduce you. This is a new member of our loving family. His name is Calamity Lark. You can't bully him." Ji-shin turned around and pushed Bai Ling in front of everyone to let everyone get to know each other. Bai Ling seemed a little restrained and couldn't hold back a word for a long time. It was Wang Chang who took the initiative to show his kindness. "Ha ha ha, we are all brothers, there is no need to be so restrained. If you have anything to do in the future, tell your uncle, and your uncle will definitely care about you." Everyone else gathered around, looking at the thin boy with a few bruises on his body, and felt a little touched in their hearts. "Oh, poor baby, why are you so injured? Don't worry, our boss is a very nice person. Follow our boss and work hard. No one will dare to bully you in the future. My name is Shuda, the second in command of the Iron Armor Gang. Nice to meet you. You don't have to be so nervous." Seeing how enthusiastic everyone was, the Disaster Lark finally plucked up the courage and said, "My name is the Disaster Lark. I am a heart warmer. My ability is space jumping. If you can find me in the future, please give me your instructions." Having said that, the Calamity Lark lowered his head again. He was very afraid that everyone would reject him because of his Zinpan identity. "Space jump. This is a magical skill." "Yes, that's right. It's amazing that you actually have such a powerful ability. No wonder you are favored by our boss. With your help in the future, the defense coefficient of our base will definitely be even higher." Ha ha ha. The Disaster Lark heard the words of approval in his ears, and his eyes became wet for a moment. He actually felt the long-lost warmth in this very strange land. The baby Ender Dragon came back from the end and asked you if it was cute. Thanks for watching, please like and subscribe.